Welcome back to Dry Hollow Homestead. It's Danielle. In today's video, I'm going to give you a quick how to can beets. So we actually have two half bushels, so a bushel of beets that we bought at a produce market auction. We bought it at a produce auction. I'm going to link the video up here if you'd like to kind of go along with me and do that. But this is how to can them. We are going to first, if we are just canning beets and not pickling them, we are going to need to pressure can them. So for my pressure canner, I can do 7 quarts at one time. Most of them can do 7 at one time. So go ahead and wash up 7 quarts, 7 lids, and 7 screw tops. That would be your first part. And bring to a boil on the stove a pot to get the skins off. It's essentially blanching it, but we're going to get the skins off. Leaving, whenever you're trimming your beets, make sure you leave a pretty good amount of the roots. This is a better example of that. And about 1 inch of the tops. This is actually a little bit shorter. This will help while you are blanching it not to have a bloody mess. Literally, it looks like blood. Do that, it will keep it from bleeding so much. And then once they have boiled, you're going to boil them for 15 to 25 minutes depending on the size. You don't really want to can anything that's bigger than 3 inches. 2 to 3 inches is perfect. These are around 2 inches. They are perfect. We're thankful that we have a produce auction that we can buy them from if we don't grow them. Once you have boiled them for 15 to 20 minutes, this one was only about 15-20 minutes, I don't know, I didn't really set a timer. We're going to be able to just push the skins right off of these. So we're going to clean them down to the beet by itself, and then we will get them in the jars, and I'll show you that. So I will show you us cleaning these up now. They still need to cool. When they come off of the burner from boil, you want to go ahead and run them over under cool water to stop that cooking process, because you're going to be cooking it again in the pressure canner, and you don't want them to get to mush. So try to stop that cooking process once you have boiled them for the amount of time necessary just to get the skins off. Just cool them off enough so you can work with them. So once they have boiled, the skins come off really easily. You just kind of push them even with your hand. And I'm collecting the skins because I want to dehydrate these skins and grind them up to use as food dye. A bunch of red food dye that's not going to poison you. Or to add to smoothies or to make things pink. I don't think it would impart a whole lot of flavor, but beets are like a superfood. So I don't really want to waste it all. But whatever we don't do that with, we can just give to our chickens or our, ew, it looks really bad. We can give to our chickens or our cow. We actually buy beet pulp to mix with our cow feed for our milk cow. But that's an idea if you don't want to waste it. But yeah, if you just, we're not even using a knife. We're just pushing off the skins and saving the skins. So on our already peeled beets, we're going to, my husband is cutting them into quarters, trying to make them about uniform size. And he's filling it up to about 1 inch headspace. I'm warming some water. So we're putting the warm beets in a jar, warm water, so I already have my canner warming up also. And in each of these quart jars, you can add 1 teaspoon of salt. So I'm about to do that too.
Alright, Liz, Daniel, Nico, Corterius, and Jared, you found a key. So, the 5 of you.
Okay. After we have the beets and the salt, I'm going to add, this is not boiling water, it's just kind of warm water. It's close to boiling. I don't know, I did it on the kettle. Up to 1 inch line. And I'm actually going to use this little contraption that you can see what 1 inch is. But I'm going to run it through first to get any bubbles out. I see that I have a really large bubble right there. So that actually would take up a lot of my water space when I do that. So poke your pokey toe, whatever it's called, down through all of them. Make sure there's no extra bubbles. And then it has a measuring thing on the side, on the other end, and go through and measure the liquid up to 1 inch below. So I'll go through and make sure that is right, and then I'm going to wipe the tops, the rims, and add my clean canning jar cover and lid. Screw top and lid. So that one needs a little bit more. Okay. I might actually take a couple of these out. It's a little bit higher than a 1 inch with this in here. Maybe 1/4 out of this one too. Okay, I'm going to go through and wipe the top rim. This is a good time to be checking and making sure there's no chinks in your glass. Once you have wiped that off, these are just washed. These have not been sanitized. These were new. But you do not need to sanitize or boil in hot water your lids and screw lids anymore. They don't even suggest that anymore, especially if you are going to be pressure canning. And then we're going to tighten the screw top lid finger tight, which is just as tight as you can get it with using only your fingers. And go through and do that on all of them. I'm using a wet rag for that, for the wiping. And then we will load them into our canner. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my lid down on my pressure canner. And I'm going to make sure that is turned up high now. We do not start the timer for this yet because we have no pressure built up in here. So right now I'm going to go ahead and tighten my bolts down, my screws down. And then we are going to have this up on high. Sorry, I have not a very big stove here. I'm going to let this burner be up on high until we see steam coming out. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Maybe you can there. It is now steaming. There you go. It is now steaming, so I'm going to put a timer on for 10 minutes. It needs to steam for 10 minutes before we add our pressure weight. Okay, it's getting kind of loud in here. My timer has gone off, saying that this has been steaming now for 10 minutes. I need to put 10 pounds of pressure on here. On the All-American canner, you have this weight that has a 5, 10, 15. There's a hole under the 10. This is according to your altitude. Mine needs to be at 10 pounds of pressure, so I'm going to put that on. And then we're going to watch the gauge, and we will start our timer once it has built up to 10 pounds of pressure here. And these are going to need 30 minutes. I might have to double check that. It might be 35. I'll let you know. And then we can start the timer for how long these need to process. We have reached 10 pounds of pressure. Now you're going to hear your little weight rock back and forth. You want to not hear it constantly de-rocking, so we're going to start turning it down. I usually go between 6 and 7 on my stove. Handles it pretty well. And then we can set our timer. Let me double check the time. So we're going to put the timer on for 35 minutes. This is starting the process time right now. Alright, the timer just went off. It's been 35 minutes. I can turn this all the way off now and let the pressure come down before I remove the pressure weight. Look at this mess I made. I walked away for just a little bit. Okay, the pressure is down to 0 now. We can take off our pressure gauge. You really shouldn't use anything that's wet. This is wet. But it's okay. Worked out. I'm alright. And then I kind of unscrew these bolts. The pressure is at 0. And then I will take the time to go ahead and take the lid off. Then set it cat corner like that for a little bit. And then we can pull these out. And then we will start loading it up again and start the canner again. Okay, we are going to pull our first pressure canner full of beets out. And we had siphoning, fun, but I'm going to put them on the counter and leave them undisturbed now for about 24 hours. And we should hear some popping of the seals. I've already heard one pop. And I got hard water, so that there is hard water staining on the jars, but like I said in one of my last videos, you can add some vinegar to your canner before you can pressure canning. About a tablespoon or two of white vinegar, but I think that makes my rings rust really quickly. I really don't know which way I prefer. So as of right now, I'm not putting any white vinegar in. Sometimes I might change my mind about that. So I'm going to go ahead and load up my next canner load. Make sure if you're using it right away that you still have 2 to 3 inches in the bottom of your canner. Okay, we're going to do the pickled beets now from the Home Preserving. I will link this book in the description box below. On page 311 is the pickled beets. I'm going to double this recipe, so I should get 12 pints. So it says to make a little bag with cheesecloth. I have plenty of very used cheesecloth, so I'm going to kind of just set it down in my measuring cup to form a bag. We're going to need 6 tablespoons of pickling spice because I am doubling it. I buy this pickling spice at a local market that we have, a Mennonite market, but you can also make it, and there's actually instructions in this canning book on this page on how to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we bought this way back when we were making corned beef. So this has actually lasted us a long time. We've done it for a couple recipes. I'm going to tie this to make a little bag. I hope I don't mess it up. You don't really want those seasonings to go in. So this is my seasoning bag, I guess. Okay, we'll see if that works. Okay, another thing is we're going to take 2 cups of water and we're going to put it in a pot. So I'm going to just start this stuff in my 3-gallon, 2.5-gallon pot right here. I'm going to put all the ingredients. So we're going to need 6 tablespoons of the pickling spice. We're going to need 5 cups of vinegar, 2 cups of water, and then 2 cups of sugar. We're going to get that all together in our pot. 2 cups of water. Okay, that was a total of 5 cups of vinegar. 2 cups of sugar. We have all those ingredients in here. Let me add my little pickling thing. We are going to bring this to a boil. I'm going to try to make sure this doesn't leak out any of my spices. I'm not sure how well I did at making that. While this is coming to a boil, I'm going to go ahead and wash up 12 pints. Okay, so we have almost to a boil. Once it gets to a boil, we're going to turn it down on a gentle boil for 15 minutes to infuse the spices into this vinegar water. So we'll give it, it's just starting to boil, I'll give it 15 minutes of a gentle boil, and then we will turn it off, take that out, and add our beets. Okay, so it's been 15 minutes. This has boiled plenty. I went ahead and took that bag of pickling spice out. The next step would be to add 20 cups of beets. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1. Alright, I'm just adding all that I have left. Probably pretty close to 20 cups in there. And then it says to bring it up to a boil again. Return to boil. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Sorry, I'm pressure canning right next to me, so you probably hear My pressure canner is starting to go. My kitchen has gotten quite loud with the pressure canner going in the background, so I'm going to just talk you through the next few steps in this process of the pickled beets. So I did these in pint jars instead of quarts. It actually, in my directions in the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving, it's actually, and they are 4 pints in that. So I just went ahead and did that, but I doubled that recipe. So I am loading up my pint jars with just the beets. After we had taken them off the boil, I'm just putting the beets in first, and then we will go back through after I have loaded the pint jars up with all the beets that I have in my pot, and we will add the brining liquid that is in the bottom of the pot. We will add that up to a 1/2 inch headspace. So on this day, I got so much done with that 1 bushel of beets. We got 21 quarts of just regular canned beets, and you can do those in pints if you would prefer, but last year I did them in pints, and the people in my family were constantly wanting more. When I opened a pint jar, we ended up always opening 2, so I would prefer to just can them up in that way. Now the pickled beets, here I'm adding the pickling brine up to a 1/2 inch. I'm going to go back through with my little measuring thing to make sure and get all the air bubbles out in a few minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and load the pickling brine in first. But what was I saying? The thought process with the pickled beets was to make a simple way to beginning of pickled eggs. Sorry, that took me a really long time to get out. Pickled eggs is one of our favorite things in the springtime, so we usually have to buy the pickled beets to add to it, so not this year. And I was measuring up to a 1/2 inch headspace, wiping the rim, and then adding just clean wash in hot soapy water, a lid and screw top. We're going to screw that on just like everything else. Just finger tight, not cranking down very hard. And we're going to put that in. This is the water bath canning because this has an high acid level. We can water bath can. Okay, I have it in the water bath canner. Now we're going to turn it up and bring this to a boil. Once this comes to a boil, we're just going to process them for 30 minutes and they are done. Okay. Timer went off. These processed for 30 minutes in boiling water. I turned my burner off and then lifted them up out of the water. I'm going to let them sit here for a little bit to cool off before I pull them out. And then we are going to leave them undisturbed for about 24 hours before we check our seals. So far we have, these are the pickled beets. These are just the beets that are canned in quarts, and I have my last 7 started in my pressure canner. And this was the result after 24 hours. I think it's only 12, whatever. The next day, I wiped everything off really well, lifted the jar by the lid to make sure there was a good seal, and took off my screw tops. Now they are ready to be stored.